Hello, everybody. Welcome to this information session for the Lee Science Impact Program. My name is Linda Ziegenbein. I'm the director for LESIP, and I'm the person who's been emailing you. I have a short PowerPoint presentation that I want to start to get you oriented to LESIP and to the application. It ends with a couple of tips and tricks, and then I'll open it to any questions. So in the meantime, as I'm talking, feel free to just pop questions in the chat. And as soon as I'm done, I'll look at them and I'll answer them all at once, but we'll have questions. My goal is for you all to be able to submit applications are as strong as possible so that you all get a really good chance of getting into the program. Okay, okay. One would think that 2 years into this, I would have this a little bit more smooth, but I don't. Okay, so again, my name is Linda Ziegenbein. This is the information session for the Lee Science Impact Program. So what is LESIP? And I should tell you that interspersed in this are some pictures from last summer's cohort. So you'll get to see maybe some people you know. So LESIP is a 10-week research experience for undergraduates program. The summer dates, the dates for this summer are going to be May 31st to August 5th, 2022. And it's important to remember those dates because students who are in the program are expected to be here for the entirety of the program. You'll spend 10 weeks that summer doing intensive lab work, and then you'll be expected to continue in the same lab during the upcoming academic year. So next year, fall and spring, you'll be in the same lab, and it's into a much reduced capacity. I think most students are in them for about 5 hours a week. There are 4 components. There are 4 components to LESIP, to the summer part. There's the lab intensive. You spend approximately 30 hours a week working in a lab. You attend life sciences, life skills workshops, or science skills workshops rather. And the life sciences students take an intro to bioinformatics course. And the physical sciences students take an intro to Python programming course. You take professional development and science communication workshops. You'll do a weekly workshop with me, actually covering professional development and science communication. And at the end of the summer, there's a poster presentation where all the students participating in research experience for undergraduates programs on campus present what they worked on over the summer. Our LESIP students have the biggest presence there, and it's a really nice way of pulling together what you've worked on this summer. Now, students who are admitted into LESIP, we will provide on-campus housing, and that you will also receive a $4,000 stipend. And the stipend is to offset the cost of not working. This is basically your full-time job for the 10 weeks that you're in the program. Now, to apply to LESIP, you have to, the application is available on the LESIP webpage. I have the link here. An easier way to do it, what I do is I just Google umass.edu and then space LESIP, and it comes right up. The application will ask you to provide your biographic and demographic information. You have to tell us what your major is. If you're exploratory track, you choose the science that is the closest to the one that you're interested in. You have to give your cumulative and major GPA. Both of them are available on Spire. If you look at your academic requirements report, you can see it right there. And then we ask you to give, one second, we ask you to let us know if you're in a lab. Now, students who are in a lab or who are not, students who are in a lab do not have any preference over students who are not. So it just helps if you're admitted into the program, it helps us with placement. If you do not have a lab, we'll try to place one to you, or place you in one, but I'll cover that a little bit later. You have to give us your unofficial transcript that's available also through Spire, and you want to give us your CV. If you have a resume, convert it to a CV. You're going to need them for your academic career, and so it's a good thing to start. CNS Career, the Career Center the Career Services Center has a really good resource on creating CVs, and they have advisors available who can help you with creating a CV if you need one. Now, you also need to give us a name of a person who will provide a letter of recommendation for you. And for some, a question that I often am asked is whether or not this person needs to be a faculty member. Certainly, it is better if it is, but you want someone who can speak strongly to who you are. So, and your fit for the program and your appropriateness for the program. So, if that person is a graduate student who was the TA for a class that you're in, I would ask that person. If you are a first year student and it's someone who you knew from high school, that is also, you could ask that person. Those people would need to just send their letter recommendation directly to me. But this would also be a good, if you're a first year student or you're not really sure who you would ask, this is a good time for you to start reaching out to faculty. Because as people who are going to be applying for other opportunities in the future, you want to start cultivating those relationships. Now, you also have to write a series of short essays, and they are quite short. They're not very long at all. And pay close attention to those. So the questions are, what is your career interest? Why do you want to conduct research? How will participating in LESIP benefit you academically and professionally? And what qualities will you bring to LESIP and its participants? Now, I will discuss this a little bit later, but our evaluation of your application is holistic, which means we carefully read these short essays. We look not just at your GPA, not just at your experience, but also who you are as a person. And all those things come together and factor in to how we admit students and how we build the cohort. Now, some important dates to remember. Applications are due by February 14th, and late applications are absolutely not accepted. That is a hard and fast deadline, even if you know me, even if I really, really like you. And part of it is just because we'll receive, on average, we get about 120 applications every year from students. And this summer we'll be accepting 20 to 25 students. And so it just helps us. So we can't accept late applications because it just isn't fair to students who make it on time. Now, your letters of recommendation are due by February 28th, 2022. So 2 weeks after that, you'll have, as soon as you put the names in, the person will get a link and they can upload it, and then you can remind them, or they'll be sent a reminder as well, letting them know that they need to upload that letter of recommendation. Now, as I said, applications are reviewed holistically, which means that we look at all aspects of who you are, your life experience, your academics. We understand and we recognize that there are lots of things that go into whether or not someone has experiences before, and we take all those things into account. LESIP is what's considered a broadening participation program, which means that special consideration is given to students who come from populations that are traditionally underserved in STEM. Now, all students can apply, and we certainly have all different types of students who are accepted into the cohort. But if you're a first generation student, if you're a low income student, if you're a student from an underrepresented minority population, all those things are part of the consideration process too. Now, evaluating these applications is quite elaborate. It's quite an elaborate process. It's 3 stages. So when I receive, all of your applications will come to me, and I will send them to your department major. So I divide them, and each department does an initial review of all of the applications from students from their department, from their majors, and they will send a ranking back to me. And I will go through that ranking and I will pull out students, the top ranked students, and I'll send those applications, the second phase, to the LESIP leadership team. Each application is reviewed by 2 separate members of the LESIP leadership team, and they send me their rank, they give me their evaluation and their ranking. I take that, I take the department numbers, I take the LESIP leadership team numbers, and then I go through at that stage and I look at all of the applications at once. And looking at my review, the department review, and the leadership team's review, I build an initial cohort that I present to the LESIP leadership team. And once I get their approval, sometimes they send it back with, they have additional comments, or they have additional questions. Um, and once we come up with the final cohort, then I'll notify students. So it's it is laborious, but it allows us to really make sure that each student has had a really fair chance of getting in, and that none of us are sort of overlooking things. Now, the application review timeline. So, as you know, your application is considered complete once we receive your letter of recommendation. And for some of you who are here may know me already, because I am the director, I cannot write any letter of recommendation for students. But all of the completed applications. So again, once we have your application and the letter of recommendation, it's considered complete. And those are then due by February 28th, right? Once the final letters are in. I then send them to the departments for review by March 4th. And then I give them 2 weeks to send those their rankings back to me. Once I receive the rankings, I then go through and I send the smaller group onto the LESIP leadership team to do their review. I give them again 2 weeks. They send those back to me. I then review all the applications in about one stressful and busy week. And I build a cohort so I can present it to them. And we notify the cohort around April 15th. By April 15th is when people who are selected you will hear from me. Now, some quick tips. Pay a close attention to those deadlines. As I said, your application deadline is a hard and fast one. So students who, it's February 14th is when it's due. If you send it to me on February 15th, I cannot accept it. Just period, I can't. And it's midnight by the end of the day. So earlier is better, but in all honesty, I don't go in until after the 14th to look anyway. So even if you submitted 11:59, but one of the ways in which we can sort of help to whittle down the number of applications we review is to really just have that deadline be hard and fast. Answer those essay questions thoughtfully. Like, we really want to know you. This is, again, a holistic evaluation. So we carefully read those. You should assume that someone is taking the time to read exactly what you're writing about yourself. The last question in particular, what can you contribute to the LESIP program, is an important one. And also, this is where you can kind of talk about your interest in science and doing research, and you're talking to people and you're writing to people who are passionate about doing this, and feel free to share your passion with them. If you're curious about doing research, you're not sure, and this is one of the ways in which you're going to use, like, say that too, like, give us a sense of who you are. Right. And then another thing is, because some of you I know are already involved in research labs, that's great, but some of you aren't, and that's fine. Honestly, that is fine. You do not, it doesn't harm you or help you to be already involved in the lab. Now, in terms of, if you are selected as to be a part of the program, what will help you to make sure that you're in the best lab is for you to already identify a lab. So what I recommend doing is to start looking at faculty web pages. So you start with the departmental web page. Most of them will have already just a brief list of research interests. Look at that, and then spend some time looking at the faculty web pages where they talk about the research and what they're doing, and then send an email to them, right? And personalize it. Professor so-and-so, I'm really interested in your research in X, right? So they know that you actually bothered to look, and you know who they are. You bother to look at their webpage and say, I'm applying to LESIP, and if I'm selected, I wonder if you will accept students into your lab to do summer research. And I'm happy to meet with you over Zoom. If you have your CV completed, I would attach that if they don't know who you are already. But don't feel strange about doing this. This is definitely a skill that you're going to have to use again and again and again as you further your science career. This is what you'll be doing when you're in professional academic conferences and you're trying to find people to collaborate with you on research. It's just a cold call. So start doing this. And this is a way that you will be able, if you get into it and you have a faculty member who is willing to take you into the lab, then we just send you and we just pair you immediately. And that's not a problem. If you don't have a lab, and then what I do is we look at your research interests and we try to find one that's close. Um, but it is that, but we can't always match it uh, directly, and so, or we can't do a perfect match. And so for you, my recommendation is to try to find one that you want to work in already. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to some Q&As. I see in the chat there are some questions already. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. You have my email address. I've been emailing you all. You can also make appointments with me, one-on-one appointments through Navigate. But let me peek quickly at the chat. Okay. Yes, you can still apply if you're working in faculty lab on campus. No problem. Any psychology labs outside of neuroscience. So this is a good opportunity to start looking, to go to psychology and to look to see them. Yes. But yes, Kylie, there are people who do work in psychology labs that who are not neuroscientists. If you are applying in fall of 2022, you cannot. And that's because you're expected to be here for an entire academic year. But actually, Tanya, yes, no, you have to do an entire academic year. The physical science projects that students have worked on, Henry. So, oh my goodness, there was a picture of Maura who works in one of the math labs, and the research there's everything. I mean, we have people who are doing work on like on smart clothing and with chemistry. We had some people in physics. These are all questions, because the students are in the labs themselves. These are all questions that are better for those specific students. And so, Henry, if you have a specific question, feel free to ask me. But honestly, if there's a faculty member who, we don't give you the research, we help to place you into labs, or to just connect you with a lab. And so if the research is being done on campus and there's space available, you can do it. We also have students. So there are lots of different types of labs. So there's a question if there's a meal plan. No, there's not a meal plan. So you get students who live on campus will be living in the North apartments, and you get the stipend. Your stipend is going to be given to you in a couple of chunks over the summer. But you're expected to cover the cost of your own food. International students can apply. We do have international students every year. There are no additional costs associated with the program. I guess you could say the additional cost is paying for your food, but you get paid a stipend. So I saw the question was, for the faculty members whose lab we want to work at, can we choose any faculty member, or there are certain faculty members that are used by LESIP? So they should be faculty in the College of Natural Sciences. We have had students who've done work with people in public health, and that would be fine also as well. If you wanted to do work on a sociological project, we wouldn't be able to fund that. We have students. So the question was, can you be a first year student? Can you be a freshman and apply? Of course, yes. We have students who are freshmen apply, and are in. I think 3 of the members of our cohort last summer were first year students. So the other question is, is it recommended you wait until you're sophomores? My recommendation also, because I've told you how competitive this program is that students should apply as many times as they can, because there is a chance that you will not get in the first year you apply. And don't take it personally. It has nothing, it is there are many factors that go into it. And so if you apply the first year and you don't get in, you can apply the second year. What I don't recommend is that students say, okay, I'm going to apply the one summer that I'm going to do it, because our acceptance rate is 20 to 25%. That's if you're a gambler, then maybe you can do that, but those numbers aren't ones that I would necessarily want to be playing. If you are in a lab on campus, yes, definitely put their name as the faculty member that you'd like to work with. If you want to work with them as part of LESIP, if you're in a lab now and you want to continue into that lab, then put their name down. And I would also recommend that you have that person write your letter of recommendation, right? Because they're the ones who can speak to your interest in science, your ability to do lab work. and all those things are great. And I should also say, even if you don't have previous lab experience, that is okay. It is completely fine. Okay. So, and the question was, can they extend their research to be used for their honors thesis? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So students, we have students who are doing their honors thesis research. Um, their LESIP research is then morphed into their honors thesis research. We have students, because you're in research labs and you're working with PIs, I'm sorry, PI is a principal investigator, the faculty member, the PhD person who is the person, the PhD who's leading the project. We have students who then go on to present at professional science conferences, who have co-authored journal articles. So there's a lot of different things, and really our hope is that that this catalyzes you to do additional work. I'm not saying, so the question is, are you saying there's a low chance that our first year will get into the program because only 3 got in last time? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that I think everybody should apply. I think it is you're not harmed or benefited now by, and there are lots of different things that go into our evaluation. So I would not discourage anybody from applying. And so the question is, what is a CV? So a CV is a curriculum vitae, and it's kind of like a resume, but it's used in the world of academia. So where a resume maybe will say, this is what I did, and these are all the responsibilities and tasks that I had. A CV tends to give your education, your job, and then maybe a bullet point of some of the responsibilities. So it's much more pared down, but it is the close thing I'd say is it's like a resume, but it's resume for academia. It's a different format, and it's a good thing to have, because really what you'll do is you'll build your CV now, and then you'll continue to add to it as you go on. I think I update my CV about every year or so. Okay, let's see. Now, are there any other questions? So there are a couple of things I also wanted to say, some questions that people have had in the past. Students have asked whether or not, if you're required to live on campus, and you're not required to, but we only provide funding for housing on campus. So if you elect to live off campus, we cannot give you money to pay for your rent. You will only get the stipend. The question is, if you get in programs, you cannot have any other job. Yeah, the expectation is this is your full-time job. So in addition to not having another job, we also we do not allow you to take summer classes. And in fact, if students in LESIP are enrolled in summer classes, everyone who is admitted in the cohort will have an orientation session with me. And one of the things I will say is you can't take summer classes. And one of the things that we'll do after that, after I tell everybody, is if I find that any student has enrolled in a summer class, they'll be removed from LESIP immediately, and your spot will be offered to another student. This is a big time commitment, and we expect you to do that. Yeah, so I think, so this is a great question. The question is, I don't really know a lot of faculty, and this is hard because, you've all had one semester, right? And then and 3 semesters where you're abroad or where you're off campus. And so most of you probably don't have good individual relationships with faculty members. What I would say to do, what I would recommend that you do, honestly, is, so this is something I would recommend. If you have a class you've taken in the past, I would reach out to a faculty member, and I would use this as a way to sort of cultivate that relationship. Again, if this is something interesting, I want to talk with you about this. Tell me, one of my tried and true questions is, say, tell me about your research, because faculty want to talk about the research. It's like, this is their passion, and this is what they want to do. Now, if you don't have that, I would say, if you're, then if there is a TA that you could speak to, but you really should have someone like an academic, because you want someone, your letter of recommendation is not just, oh, this is a nice person, but this is someone who really would be a good member of our community. Because LESIP, you're living together for 10 weeks. We want to make sure you all get along. This is someone who is interested in science. This is someone who is going to be able to do this. Because the other thing is it's a 10-week program, and many of our students, as at UMass, live in Massachusetts. And so we'll have students who'll ask, can I, my family takes a vacation every summer and we're going to be gone for a week. Can I still do the program? No, you can't. Um, can I, I'm feeling kind of homesick. Can I go home for a week or two and just do Zoom in? No, you can't. Can I go back and forth? No, you can't. I'm a really good student. I promise, I promise, I promise I can do this summer course and do LESIP and do both well. That's fantastic. You can't. You have to choose one or the other. It's just, this has created problems in the past. And we have to make it a really hard and fast rule. So one of the questions is, if you're living in North Apartments, can you stay in the same room? I can, when I give the names to the students, I can give your name and ask that you stay in the same room, but this is a housing issue. And I think in the past, what housing has done is they just clear everybody out and then they put everybody, the LESIP students, back in. And so I'm not sure, because I think they want all of your stuff out so they can do that initial clean, but I can certainly ask. Do resources on campus offer help with CVs? Yes, the CNS, the Career Services Center. So if you Google umass.edu CNS careers, you will get to our Career Services Center. They have fantastic resources, but also they have advisors right now who can meet with you to talk about that. So one of the questions, I have a part-time job that's only on Saturdays and Sundays. Am I still able to apply for LESIP? You should talk to me, because so if your job is not here, if it's not in the Amherst area, it's probably not going to be, it's probably not going to work, but we can talk about it. Like, that's, I wouldn't say absolutely not. But I would need to hear more about your situation. Can you go home during the weekends? We asked you to not, for a number of reasons. One is it's a 10-week. One of the things about the UMass program that's different. So universities across the nation have these RU experiences, these research experience for undergraduates. And one of the things that makes our program, the LESIP program, unique is that it's for our students. Many of the programs house students who are coming from other institutions. So, you're moving to Delaware, you're moving to DC, you're moving to New Mexico to do the research, and you're expected to stay there. We really want you to stay here on campus. And especially given the fact that we are most likely still going to be dealing with the pandemic next summer, we really, really, really discourage students from traveling off campus and then just traveling all around, and then coming in and infecting everybody. We don't want a big outbreak. So we ask. Now, having said this, am I going to stand outside the North Apartments and tell you no? No, I'm not going to do that. I don't. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But we strongly discourage you from doing that. And if you go home every weekend, we're going to have a talk. Yeah. So, any other, I'm looking to see if there are any other questions. Yeah, so I hope you all apply. If you have any questions, as I said, my name is Linda Ziegenbein. You all have my email address, and my signature actually has a link directly to Navigate. So if you want to make an appointment with me to talk about your application, I cannot review individual applications. I apologize, but it's just there are too many of them, and I'd want to be able to be fair for everybody. But I think, but yeah, these applications are always great. This is a fantastic program. Students get a lot out of it. Some of our alumni are in medical school, some are in PhD programs, some are working in industry now. So it's exciting to see where students start. And even last summer, we had 3 students who, from their experience last summer, are now applying to PhD programs, and it was something they'd not thought about. So this is a transformative experience for many, many, many students. And I look forward to reading your applications. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, but otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everybody.